The UFC is back with its first numbered event of the year this weekend. The Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis fight for the middleweight title in Toronto, Canada. This is Barney Talks Fighting, and in today's video I'm going to break down the fight and I'm going to make my official prediction at the end, so stick around for that. For Sean Strickland, this is his first title defence. What a 2023 he had. He won 3 on the bounce. Obviously last time out, shocking the world with a win against Israel Adesanya. If you had said to him at the end of 2022 when Sean Strickland lost a split decision, a very close call against Jared Cannonier, if you had said to him then that coming in the first pay-per-view of 2024 would be Sean Strickland against Dricus Du Plessis for the middleweight title, I don't even think Sean Strickland would have believed you. What a crazy turn of events we had, and it's made this great and tight matchup, which is going to be very, very hard to predict. Since moving up the middleweight, Sean Strickland has gone 8-2. He has looked very, very good, and his only 2 losses has came by way of Alex Pereira and obviously the split decision against Jared Cannonier. To me, none of these fights make Sean's stock drop too much. Alex Pereira is now the light heavyweight champion, and a lot of people think that he actually beat Cannonier. It was a close call, it could have went either way. Sean Strickland's run at middleweight is overlooked massively. He lost a few at welterweight, but since making that step up, he's looked very, very, very good in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of people that's overlooking him for this weekend. Dricus Du Plessis, this is his first title shot. It's a well-deserved title shot. He's went 6-0 in the UFC since making his debut in October 2020. He's had some notable wins over the likes of Darren Till, Derek Bronson, and of course last time out Robert Whittaker, which was as big an upset as the Strickland Israel Adesanya upset, to be honest. Robert Whittaker was really, he was the next best thing in the middleweight division. He was very, very unlucky to never have the title. The only reason he didn't was because Israel Adesanya was so good. Robert Whittaker hadn't been beat by anyone in 10 years that wasn't called Israel Adesanya, and Dricus Du Plessis went out and got it done and finished him in the second round. So that was a great achievement for Du Plessis. He looked really, really good in that fight. This is going to be a very, very close fight. I think for Sean Strickland, for him to win, what he needs to do is keep the fight going to the championship rounds. Dricus Du Plessis is known to gas out. He's known to not have great cardio.
Du Plessis has been breathing mouth open for several minutes now.
He did have a nose problem for the majority of his career, which he got fixed before the Robert Whittaker fight. But I was watching that fight back the other day, and Dricus Du Plessis, he was still pretty gassed coming into the second round. He did finish Whittaker in the second round, but he was still breathing heavy and he did look pretty sluggish, and that was the second round. Dricus Du Plessis, he's never been scheduled to go 5 rounds in the UFC. He was scheduled to go 5 rounds in his previous organisations, KSW and EFC, but he never made it to the 4th or 5th round. Whether he got finished in the 3rd or whether he had won the fight by the 3rd round, he never made it in the championship rounds. So for me, for Sean Strickland to win this fight, he needs to keep it going to the championship rounds. Strickland has won to 3 decisions in his last 4 fights, so this is a man, the championship rounds are his bread and butter. Going the full 5 rounds will be no problem to him. He spars all the time. He spars the most out of any fighter on the UFC roster. So going 5 rounds for him will be no problem. What will this mean? This will mean that he'll have to keep the fight standing. DDP showed great wrestling against Whittaker. He was close to locking in a Darce choke a couple of times. I also watched a video earlier where Dricus Du Plessis, he was grappling with a lot of the Gracie Barra team and he managed to tap out loads of them. So I don't think we should sleep on Dricus Du Plessis' jiu-jitsu and wrestling overall. I think we haven't seen Sean Strickland's too much of recent years, but I don't think it will be at the level of Dricus Du Plessis. So how does Strickland win this? He has to keep the fight standing. He has to jab and keep the distance, and also not react too much to Dricus Du Plessis' wild swings. So Dricus Du Plessis is a very unorthodox fighter. Strickland's a man who likes to read people. It takes Strickland a few rounds normally to get into the fight because he likes to read what his opponent's doing. So obviously with Adesanya, it was a bit easier to read Adesanya. If Strickland went forward, Adesanya went back. But Dricus Du Plessis will not do that. Dricus Du Plessis will really come out and put the pressure on Strickland. So he needs to be able to jab and get away from it and still make his reads. He needs to be able to see when he throws this, will Dricus slip off this way? He needs to try and find patterns within his fighting style that he can expose, and that might be difficult to do with someone like Dricus Du Plessis, who is so unorthodox. For Dricus Du Plessis, I think he needs to make the striking, as I said before, he needs to make it as unorthodox as possible, so Strickland can't make the reads. We've seen Jared Cannonier catching Strickland heavy in the 4th round of their fight, and Cannonier, he would have a similar style to Dricus. I think Dricus' striking is better, but the same wild swinging, coming in, switching stance all the time, he's got quite a similar stance. I think Dricus will throw more head kicks than Cannonier did, and he might have a better arsenal of punches and strikes in general, but we can kind of compare the two, and we've seen Cannonier, he done really well against Strickland in the 4th round. He rocked him a few times. Strickland left his chin open there for him, and I think if Dricus finds that chin, he'll be stronger and more powerful than Cannonier. Dricus Du Plessis can find the chin of Strickland and wobbles him. I think we can expect him to put the pressure on, maybe take him down and then use his grappling. I think for Dricus Du Plessis, if it was me, I would shoot for a takedown early. We haven't seen Sean's takedown defence much at all at middleweight. Dricus is good at grappling, we know this, so I think he should shoot for the takedown, and even if it lands and Strickland gets back to his feet, it will change the way Strickland has to defend. He can't stand as upright in fear of the takedown, so I think he needs to get his grappling respect early, shoot for a takedown, keep the pressure on in the first 2 fights, and ensure that he doesn't gas out. I think if this fight goes by the 2nd or 3rd round, I think Strickland will really come into it. But for Dricus Du Plessis, keep his striking as unorthodox as possible. Throw the wild swings, keep changing stances, make himself as hard to read as possible, because there is no one better in this game at reading fighters as Sean Strickland. Another factor which could play a key part in this fight is, will the emotions get too much for Sean Strickland? Dricus Du Plessis really did. He did dig away at Strickland's childhood trauma in the press conference, and Strickland was not happy. We've seen him on the Theo Vaughn podcast crying. We've seen him obviously fighting with Dricus Du Plessis in the crowd. It seemed like he was quite angry on the build up to this fight at Dricus Du Plessis. So Sean Strickland's a man that wears his heart on his sleeve. I don't know if he can control his anger. We've seen another example of this was Colby Covington against Leon Edwards. I'm not comparing Colby Covington to Dricus Du Plessis because they're not the same kettle of fish at all. But Leon Edwards was able to stay calm and really channel his anger and put it into a positive way. I don't know if Sean Strickland could do that, and he is an absolute madman. I think once Sean Strickland sees Dricus standing at the other side of the cage and he remembers what he said about him and he brings up the childhood trauma, I think Sean Strickland will just go for him, and this can lead to Dricus maybe finding holes in his defence and landing them big overhand rights and them big swings that he does try and land quite often. So I think for Sean, he has to be able to control his anger. Something that I have noticed was on TNT Sports, Sean Strickland done an interview. It was yesterday, so it was on Monday on Fight Week, and he seemed reasonably calm. He didn't put a lot of hatred towards Dricus. He did seem calm, so I think if we continue to see Sean Strickland acting this way throughout Fight Week, as long as the press conference isn't too heated, I think Sean Strickland will be able to control his anger. But if I was Dricus Du Plessis, I think he's got to try and make him as angry as possible, because Sean Strickland will make mistakes when he's angry. We've seen him hit out in training before. We know he is an angry man, and we know it's something that he cannot control. I think Dricus Du Plessis really has to play on Sean's anger. He's done well at doing it so far, obviously bringing up the childhood trauma stuff. Maybe a bit far, but Sean Strickland, he gives as good as he gets, so I think Dricus Du Plessis needs to keep going, keep trying to make him angry and force Sean Strickland into making mistakes. So for the official prediction, I think Sean Strickland will win a split decision in this fight. I think it'll be a very, very close fight. I think Dricus will come out all guns blazing. I think he'll win rounds 1 and 2. So whether he lands a takedown and dominates on the ground, or whether he beats him on the feet, I think Sean Strickland will struggle to make the reads, the defensive reads that he needs to make, while Dricus is coming out and swinging wildly in the way he does. He's got such an unorthodox style. I think it'll take Sean Strickland a few rounds. They let Dricus calm down, let Dricus gas out, which I do think will happen. As I said before, we've seen it happen in the 2nd round of the Whittaker fight. He looked gassed, and yes, Dricus Du Plessis has a new nose, and yes, that was meant to mean that he's got a whole new cardio level, but I don't know, I haven't seen it proven yet. He might go out and prove me wrong in this fight, and fair play to him if he does, but the 2nd round against Robert Whittaker, go and watch it again. I think he did look gassed. He was sluggish he was throwing quite sluggish punches with his mouth wide open, which is never a good sign. But he got the job done. He's a man that wins. No matter how gassed out he is, he keeps winning. So I think Dricus wins rounds 1 and 2, and I think Sean Strickland goes on to win rounds 3, 4 and 5. Meaning that he'll win a split decision. Thank you very much for tuning in to this video. Make sure and hit the like and subscribe button and hit the bell for when my next video goes live. I will do a full reaction video to this fight come Sunday or Monday after it has taken place. So enjoy watching the fights this weekend, and I will see you next week.